I don't think we ever have to worry about people mispronouncing your name, do we?
No, we don't, but I wish they'd say it without a smirk. You'd think, given how many copies of Harry Potter have been sold over the years and how rabid the fan base of that series is, people would know how to pronounce JK Rowling's name. However, according to JK Rowling herself, that isn't the case, to the point, out of sheer frustration, she stopped bothering to correct people when they mispronounce it.
So for the record,
Yeah.
how do you pronounce the name and how do we know that that is how it is pronounced?
It is pronounced Rowling, and we know this because JK Rowling herself has gone on record as saying in multiple interviews, pronounce my name as if you're saying the word rolling. I'm not really going to make fun of that because, you know, glass houses and all that shit. And also because I don't really want to disappoint someone with like a disapproving parent arms crossed look as strong as JK Rowling's.
That means I have to use that picture.
Yeah, you have to use that picture, yeah. Unless there's another picture of her standing there all stern with her arms crossed like that.
I mean, if that's her default pose.
It's the author pose, isn't it? It's how authors stand on the back of like books and things like that.
Or in a fancy armchair with a fireplace.
Yeah, or the other one, the one that they use in Family Guy. It's, oh, I even got your author's portrait commission. Is Brian really buff with a black t-shirt on like that?
And I even commissioned an oil painting for your author's photo.
I was going to say, the other one is hand to head.
Yeah, he's just touching your face like that, just doing like James McAvoy's Professor X.
Yeah.
It's the temple touch. Do you know he came up with that? Because he was like, oh, Patrick Stewart, you can't emulate Patrick Stewart. How do I, like, you know, make my Professor X different from his? Temple touch. And that's it, that's all he does. Do you know what I love about Professor X, though?
What?
When you play X-Men games and they bring Professor X into them. Because obviously, we all know Professor X is in a wheelchair, so there's not really much you can do with the characters in a wheelchair. Unless, and I don't know which game it is, but you'll find it, Brad, and put the clip in. There is one X-Men fighting game for like the PS2 or something like that, where Professor X is an unlockable character, and he's in his wheelchair, and he can do wheelchair combos. Professor X has a move in that game when he sits in his wheelchair, raises his hands like he just doesn't care, and flies into the air while rotating. And it's fucking brilliant.
Very disappointing.
And I want more games where you do that. I want more games where you do sick wheelchair catters to people.
Games? I want that in the films.
He uses psychic. No, Magneto picks up the wheelchair and just beats people with it. Well, that's one of my most frustrating things watching superhero movies, and it's the lazy use of a superhero's powers. Bringing that back to the Harry Potter universe, there's so much stuff in that universe that's underutilised, and it really pisses me off. Like when he goes, Accio Firebolt, and it flies from like his room, and it somehow makes its way downstairs and out of some windows to find him when he's fighting that dragon.
Accio Firebolt!
Why don't more people use that? That seems like a really good like spell to cast. The other one that gets me is Dobby. We all know, like, you've got Dobby and you've got Creature. And we may have talked about it before, like creatures who are so good, they can like break the magic around the Horcruxes. Because like Voldemort never expected elves to have such powerful magic. And then he has the Sword of Godric Gryffindor. This impossibly badass sword that can kill anything, including something that can't be killed. And it's like, okay, immortal slave, do my bidding, go anywhere, be invisible. I've got an invisibility cloak. So I've got an invisibility cloak, like slave that does my bidding can go anywhere, a sword that can kill anything. And it annoys me, it's in the books, it's not in the films, but in the books, the final battle of Hogwarts, they say all the elves join in the fight at the end. Do you know how the elves fight? They get kitchen knives and they stab people in the ankles. Like, wow. These things we see can like click their fingers and fire bowling balls and bludgers and stuff. Why aren't the elves stood there at top, clicking their fingers, firing knives at all the bad guys? Why are they attacking hand to hand when we know for a fact they can bewitch ordinary objects like a bludger and make it target someone's elbow? Why are they not clicking their fingers and sending 40,000 knives at people? Why is Dobby not Magneto? Why is Dobby not stood like Magneto like this, floating on just like a bludger as just a whirlwind of knives flies around him as he flies through all the Death Eaters? And Voldemort goes, I'll challenge this, and he just goes click, takes his wand, my wand now, fuck you, 5,000 knives. the elves are like the most powerful race in that book, and they attack people with fucking sticks. When we know for a fact they can like fly and teleport anywhere. It's like, give fucking Dobby that invisibility cloak. Give him the Sword of Godric Gryffindor and tell him to fuck shit up. You've got an assassin right there. That's a film I'd watch.
Stupid elf! You could have killed me!
Dobby never meant to kill. Dobby only meant to maim or seriously injure.
Something weird to note is that the inability to correctly pronounce JK Rowling's last name seems to be limited exclusively to American fans of Harry Potter.
What do you mean just American fans?
We're not making fun of Americans here. Rowling herself has noted that she's met fans from virtually every possible background, from every culture, every race, every creed, every socio-economic background, every accent in the United Kingdom, and they all can pronounce her name correctly or don't act like an asshole when she corrects them on the pronunciation if they do happen to mispronounce it. This doesn't seem to happen in the United States though, and she said virtually every person she ever meets in the United States butchers her last name to such an extent she's entirely depleted her salvo of givable shits.
So how do they pronounce her surname in the States?
The two most common mispronunciations are Rowling and Rawling, which kind of makes sense because the W in her last name, so people assume it either rhymes with the word howling or scrawling. However, it doesn't, and JK Rowling has repeatedly corrected people on that in the past. And I did some research and I found the only person she's ever had an interview with in the United States who seems to be able to pronounce her name correctly is Oprah of all people. Because you know what? Oprah can do no wrong, apparently.
Oprah's a saint.
Oh, she is, isn't it? I love Oprah. Man, can we just say, is the greatest running gag in TV history the Drake and Josh gag of Josh fucking loving Oprah?
When I was her age, I had a crush on Oprah. Oprah? She's an inspiration.
Is that the greatest running gag in history? Because I love the fact that he's just in love with Oprah. that episode where he runs her over with his car. That show is hilarious to me now, because obviously the beginning joke at the start is, oh yeah, Drake Bell, and is it Josh, what's his last name, the actor? It's something, oh man, I forget. I'm sorry guy who plays Josh in Drake and Josh, I forgot your last name. But the joke is, oh yeah, Drake, he's like so cool and suave with all the ladies. And like Josh is like his big bumbling fat ass, but by the end of the season he's lost all the weight. So Josh is better looking than Drake.
Josh Nichols is no longer a caterpillar. He is a beautiful butterfly.
So you're saying that Rowling was getting annoyed that Americans weren't pronouncing her name properly?
It's not so much the mispronunciation that annoyed her, it's the fact that when she tried to correct Americans who mispronounced her last name, they'd always say, no, you're wrong. And they'd act really indignant about it. So, oh yes, Miss Rowling, if you like to come with something, actually it's pronounced Rowling. Just want to get that clear right now. And then no, it's not. And I can't imagine how frustrating that would be to be told you're wrong about the pronunciation of your own name. And she said, in interviews, I got so sick of correcting people and them telling me I was wrong that I just stopped caring.
I answer to both. I can't remember the last time I corrected someone when they said Rowling. In fact, America, I think everyone thinks I'm JK Rowling, so I just answer to both.
And that's kind of depressing, that, isn't it? To think that your name, the thing that identifies you as a person, you just got tired of correcting people on how it's pronounced because they'd always argue with you about it. Imagine the levels of unearned confidence you have to display to think correcting someone on the pronunciation of their own name is going to go down well after they've already told you it's wrong. So I can't think of a parallel for how stupid that is.
I don't know what they think they're going to get out of it. Is she going to call her parents up and go, guys, you were doing it wrong all these years?
I want to know, what is the end game of the person telling Rowling she's wrong about how to pronounce her own name? And they go, Miss Rowling. Actually, no, it's Rowling, but it's a common problem. We just address that now. We don't have to say anything more about it. No, you're wrong. And she just goes, oh, well, fuck me. And that's what I find so hilarious. It's not that people keep mispronouncing it. It's that when she corrects them on the mispronunciation, they tell her she's wrong. It's like, it's my fucking name. An inadvertent side effect of Rowling's increasingly chill reactions to people mispronouncing her name, she just doesn't want to argue with them about it, is that now all those incorrect pronunciations I just talked about are listed alongside the actual pronunciation of her name on Wikipedia. Fans of hers and people on Wikipedia argue, and this is my favourite part, that because JK Rowling has stopped trying to correct people, that means it's okay to mispronounce her name. So what they're trying to argue on the talk page, which I invite people to go look at, is that even though JK Rowling herself and the entire collective world media pronounce it this one way, these other pronunciations are equally as valid because they say so. I'm not surprised she stopped arguing with people, because can you imagine that? It's like, well, on Wikipedia it says this. It's like, but I'm saying it's pronounced this way. Me, the owner of the name, the person you invited to this interview. I feel so bad for her. Because people look at, oh wow, all 3 pronunciations are correct. No, one is correct. These other 2 are bullshit. Stop saying that. It's like, oh man, it's no wonder she just stopped arguing with people if that's what she had to deal with. I can't imagine how frustrating and just draining it must be to have someone like angrily insist that you're wrong about how to pronounce your own fucking name.
To be honest, do you not think maybe she's getting a bit of a taste of her own medicine after all the stuff she's fucked up in her own books?
Yeah, that might be a point, isn't it? Good old Voldemort. People who don't know, Voldemort is actually supposed to be pronounced Voldemort, because the French word for death is what Voldemort's name comes from, which is Mort or something like that, or M-O-R-T. And I believe in the very first audio book, the guy who read the audio books out called Rowling up to say, how do I pronounce like this name here, Voldemort something? She went, yeah, that's correct. It's based on the French word for death. However, when the films came around, she realised, oh man, Americans aren't going to get this. So she changed it to Voldemort. Apparently the thinking on set was, because so many people reading the books mispronounced Voldemort as Voldemort, that fuck it, just change it, 'cause I can't be asked how many people are going to write in and complain. It's like, oh man, you can't be that fast and loose with it. It's like, it's great, that, isn't it? When it's the audio books, it's like, oh yeah, it's fine, Voldemort, because it's based on the French. And she's like really smugly asserting, yes, oh, only a smart person would get that. Then when the films come out, no, it's Voldemort. You can't beat the best change though, can you, Brad? You have your mother's eyes.
Oh god! Do you know the first poster for that? They changed the colour of his eyes.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously in the film they're glowing blue, and it's like they didn't hire an actress with the blue eyes, did they? Just to counter that claim.
Despite the fact every single person in the books says to him, "You have your mother's eyes," and now you got to put the meme image behind us.
The Snape one.
The meme image was like, "You have your mother's eyes." It's Harry doing that.
The one I saw is the one of Snape where it says you have your mother's eyes and it shows the eyes next to you. Then that picture of Snape like with his arms flayed against the wall.
It's so bad. How do you make a mistake that bad?
It's like the whole point is that he looks like his dad, but he has his mother's eyes.
Because literally every single character who ever meets him, because obviously JK Rowling is not a great writer, says to him, "You have your mother's eyes," rather than saying something original.
Even though like you look like your dad.
Yeah, you like your dad, but you got your mother's eyes. What does that even mean? One of my favourite things about Rowling as a writer is that the book she wrote under a pseudonym, because she didn't want to coast off of Harry Potter, was a review for it was, it's not a great novel, but it's okay for a first attempt. It's like she's got 7 multi-million selling books under her belt, but not bad for a first attempt.
Good for her.
Oh God, I love